And she just looked at me and said, you either get pregnant or you have both of your ovaries removed. I was brought back up to the ward and they basically said her appendix was fine, but we took it out anyway because she doesn't need it. But what we did find was ovarian cysts and endometriosis.
Yes.
And we all know that during COVID, gynaecology was the first department to be put on the backlog. And I remember the woman on the phone saying, well, you haven't got cancer, so you'll just have to wait. I remember thinking, well, you're right, but that doesn't diminish like what I'm experiencing right now.
No, and is that really the standard that we're working to?
I know. The amount of times I've been called pregnant because of my endobelly. And I just want people to realise that like women with round bellies don't always mean that they're carrying a child.
How many women understandably are thinking, I cannot do this anymore?
Yeah.
Like I've not got the energy, I've not got the motivation, I'm too tired, I don't want to put myself through this anymore.
Yeah. Because I found after that surgery, that's when more symptoms started to develop.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So in that surgery, did they just remove the cysts?
They didn't remove the cysts.
How can you try and love yourself and like yourself as a person where there is a part of your own body that actually, me personally, sometimes I really hate it?
Yeah. Every woman in Wales knows Dr. Anthony Griffiths as the endometriosis god.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. He is an absolute angel. Like, I cannot recommend him enough. The health board that I need to be under has rejected me due to funding.
Amy, welcome to the Girl Chat. You've made a heck of a journey to be with us today as well, so I'm really grateful that you've travelled.
That's okay.
Brought a bit of Wales with you, which is always nice.
I'm so sorry. So sorry about the Welsh weather following me.
No, I don't think we can blame you for that. Your story is really fascinating and really interesting, and actually at the moment it's so relevant because you've got so much going on actually right now with your journey.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of guests that have got obviously a lot of history and a lot of context, and we kind of focus on that bit, and then up to like modern day it's maybe things are resolved or quiet at the moment. But I actually want to start almost a bit later in so we can really talk about what's happening at the moment, because it's huge for you.
Yeah.
So from what I read, you were actually misdiagnosed with appendicitis in 2018.
Yes. Yeah.
What happened there? And was that when they found endometriosis?
Yeah. So it was basically day one of my period. So I've always had painful, heavy periods, but of course I was always told they were normal. And up to the surgery, I'd never actually heard of endometriosis, never knew what it was.
Wow.
So I was experiencing like extreme cramping, and I told my mum, I was like, this is worse than normal. But my bleeding has stopped, which was really, really out of the ordinary for my periods.
Okay.
And she said, this is not right. So I'm going to take you to out of hours, who then rushed me to A&E. And they said, we think you've got appendicitis after like some physical examinations, obviously talking about my symptoms. And then they said, we're going to have to take you in for emergency surgery because we think your appendix is about to blow.
Oh my God.
So it was all like a rush. Ended up having surgery the same evening. And I was in there for about 4 hours. My mum and dad were waiting on the ward for me. And they were like, well, what's going on? It shouldn't take this long. I was brought back up to the ward and they basically said her appendix was fine, but we took it out anyway because she doesn't need it. But what we did find was ovarian cysts and endometriosis. And they think that the pain I was experiencing was in fact a ruptured cyst, because when they went in, my pelvic area was filled with discoloured blood, which they thought was from the cyst that had actually ruptured. So that's when they diagnosed me then with endometriosis.
Wow.
I know, it's a bit crazy.
That's a hell of an evening, or 24 hours. Yeah. I mean, your poor parents waiting for 4 hours thinking, what the hell is going on?
I know. It was crazy. And it was even worse the next day because obviously I'd come around from everything and they told me the news. And I have obviously never heard of endometriosis. So I was like, well, what is that? And they said, well, we'll send you to gynaecology in the next few weeks. But unfortunately, there is no cure, but they will tell you more. And that's how I was left for about 6 to 8 months. I think I was waiting for an appointment with gynaecology.
Oh my
So
God.
I just left after having this emergency unprepared for surgery with this knowledge of you've got this condition that you've never heard of that has no cure, but someone will see you in the next few weeks. And that's how we were left.
That literally is like your life has been turned upside down in a matter of hours, right? I mean, how old were you at this point?
2018, so I was 22.
Okay.
22 years old, yeah.
Wow.
Very
Young.
young. Very young. At the time, I didn't feel like I was that young, but looking back, yeah, I was super young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What does that do to you? So Amy in that hospital bed,
Mm-hmm.
life-changing news with no kind of preconceived idea of what actually that means.
Yeah.
Can you describe what that
Well, to
does?
be honest, I didn't actually realise how life-changing that news was. Because I
Okay.
didn't know what endometriosis was. I just thought, oh, well, I've got ovarian cysts. My mum said, well, they're pretty common in women. And I just thought that was that. And then it was only when we went away and started researching it that I was like, oh, okay, well, it affects my periods, which explains why I'm having painful periods. And that's all I thought it was. But it was only until like a couple of months later, because I found after that surgery, that's when more symptoms started to develop.
That's interesting. So in
Yeah.
that surgery, did they just remove the cysts?
They didn't remove the cysts.
Oh,
No,
wow.
they basically went in and removed the appendix. And I think they
Okay.
drained, obviously, the pelvic area, but they just left it there because the surgeon who was doing my surgery was just the on-duty surgeon. And I
Wow.
believe they called the gynaecology surgeon in to have a look at what was going on to obviously diagnose, but they didn't do anything at the time.
Okay, so a very invasive surgery in lots of ways, but
Yeah.
also not like a traditional removal, excision or ablation
Yeah,
surgery.
literally none of that at all.
So they told you a few weeks to go to gynecology. Sounds like it was a lot longer than that.
Yeah.
What's going on for you whilst you're waiting to go to
So
gynae?
basically, obviously, it was just the recovery of the surgery because I'd never had surgery before. It was mainly just research. But again, like I said, we didn't research much into it because I just thought it wasn't that big of a deal, to be
Yeah.
honest with you. And we were just like, we'll wait for gynecology and wait to see what they say.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was only then when I started going to my gynecologist appointments that I realised, well, actually, this is pretty bad. What's going on? But yeah, like I said, it was within that first year of that surgery, that's when more endometriosis symptoms started to develop.
And what
Because
were those symptoms for you?
extreme bloating. I never used to bloat before. Never used to bloat. There was bladder symptoms, so I was getting like the painful urination like a lot more. And then obviously the heavy bleeding still carried on. I started developing like more migraines and stuff.
Oh,
So
ouch.
yeah, it was pretty crazy considering that like before that surgery it would just be painful periods and heavy periods, and that was that.
That is really interesting. Obviously, we
Yeah.
don't really know why that's happened, but I'd love it if that could be looked into because, like,
Yeah.
that was a significant moment in your journey, right? It's
Yeah.
almost like it unlocked Pandora's box for more symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah. And it was wild because then the more I looked into it, obviously I was like, right, it grows on my bowel. And then I started noticing then I was like, am I getting more bowel symptoms now? And obviously throughout my teenage years, I did experience a lot of painful urination.
Okay.
And I was constantly back and forth the doctors and
Yeah.
they were saying, you know, it's not coming up as a UTI. You've got no infection there. It's probably just cystitis. It's probably caused by sex and condoms, which they put it down to. But
Wow.
then my symptoms with my bladder did get worse after that surgery as well. And then it was in the
Okay.
next surgery, they said, well, actually, your bladder was in fact covered in endometriosis.
Oh my
But that
God.
wasn't spotted in the first surgery because obviously they wasn't looking for it.
No, of course not. They went for appendicitis and then just happened to kind of move alongside slightly to the reproductive area. I think it's really important to, if we can, specific symptoms because we've done one on leg pain recently, and the amount of different descriptions that we've got for leg pain and hip pain is insane. It affects people differently. So
Yeah.
for you, like painful urination, is that like before, during, afterwards? Can you describe it at all?
Yeah, so I tend to get it around the time I'm due my period.
Okay.
So basically, I go to the toilet a lot anyway. I
Okay.
think I pee about 20 to 30 times a day, but it's never like I always feel busting, but then there's not much to accommodate that feeling.
Okay.
But right before my period is due, I get the burning sensation and it's exactly like a UTI.
Okay.
But the only difference is I don't get the strong smell that you normally get with urine when you have a UTI.
Yes.
So it is just the burning. It's exactly like cystitis.
Wow.
And I sometimes experience that after sex as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's so uncomfortable.
It's so painful.
Yeah.
It really is. Because like the only time I feel that I'm not experiencing that pain is when I'm sat on the toilet. that's the only time I feel a bit of relief.
Oh my
And as soon as I
gosh.
get off that toilet, I go and sit or lie down and I'm like, I need to go again. So I spend my days just sat on the toilet just to try and get some relief from it.
And that is so invasive into every part
Yeah,
of your life, right? Like, how are you meant to live any kind of normal life
I
when that
know.
urgency and that pain is just constantly getting you to get up and go to the loo?
Yeah, yeah. And it's so bizarre because obviously I feel like I am full and that I
Mm-hmm.
really need to go. And then I'll go and there'll be nothing there. But
Mm.
when you look at my stomach, that will bloat as well.
Yeah.
So when I feel like I'm busting and I really need to go, my stomach goes really, really big. And then once I go, it's right back down again.
Wow. Okay,
Yeah.
so there's definitely like a pattern there between
Yeah.
the urgency and feeling full and
Yeah.
then the relief. Wow. I mean, you talk so we should point out that anyone that hasn't come across you before, your social channels are
Oh,
incredible. You
thank
do
you.
completely honest, unfiltered, really raw content. We were talking about it a bit before we came on air.
Yeah.
But it is fantastic, your channel. It is amazing what you talk about. And you're
Thank you.
very open about endo belly because that's
Yes.
big for you, isn't it? I think if someone
Yeah.
looks at your page, they'll kind of see you as they'll associate endo belly with something you talk about a lot.
Yes. Yeah, it's something I'm sort of passionate about to normalize because
Mm.
I think a lot of us women with endometriosis will experience endobelly to some extent. You know, some of us might only experience it around our periods or ovulation. Some of us might find that food triggers endobelly.
Mm.
But for me, I find everything triggers my endobelly. And I think it's because right now my endometriosis is so severe
Okay.
that everything triggers my endobelly. I have one nearly every day.
Wow.
So I want to talk about it more, to normalize it, and to also make others aware because the amount of times I've been called pregnant because of my endobelly.
Oh.
And I just want people to realize that, like, women with round bellies don't always mean that they're carrying a child.
Yes, and the cruelty with that comment of people assuming that you are pregnant or feeling, I'm not sure if I'd really feel the need to point that out to a complete stranger, but I
No,
suppose lots
people
of
do.
people do.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially online.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially online. But there's been a few times out in public where people have asked or assumed that I'm pregnant.
Oh,
And that's why I just post so much on my endobelly so people can maybe think twice before asking others.
definitely.
Yeah.
And for people that haven't maybe recognized their own endobelly, maybe they haven't kind of realized that's what it is or just don't know about it, how would you describe endobelly? And because it can go to lots of different extremes, can't it, in terms of like the physical, what you can see.
Yeah, so with some people, they get the pain with the
Mm-hmm.
endobelly. So, endobelly is basically inflammation in your stomach, it's where you bloat. So, I don't always get it with pain,
Mm-hmm.
but I tend to feel like that tight pressure feeling, as if you've eaten a really big meal and
Okay.
you feel that uncomfortableness in your stomach, and you're like, oh, everything just feels so heavy and
Mm.
like you could burst. And
Okay.
that's basically for me how endobelly feels. And in terms of physically, it can sometimes go quite hard, especially like the
Okay.
lower down. It does feel quite hard, but it is just inflammation and bloating. And
Mm.
that's type of how you can pinpoint it is when it
Mm.
just comes on as well all of a sudden. It
Yeah.
can just come on out with the blue.
And it can be really prominent, like that kind of pregnancy type shape, isn't it? It
Yeah.
can be very high, it can be very out there.
Yeah.
I used to have it to that extent younger. Now, for me, it might not be actually like coming outwards. It might just be like your abdomen goes rock hard, and then you're thinking, God, that feels so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It changes a lot depending on
Yeah.
the person, doesn't it?
Yeah, everyone can experience it so differently. Like I find my endobelly is very round, but it's more towards the bottom of my stomach. But then I
Okay.
know some women whose endobelly starts right from under their ribs. They inflame right from underneath their rib cage, so it goes quite
Wow.
high up. So it really does depend on the person and obviously their body types as well.
Okay, so if we go back to you've had the emergency surgery, you've been told you're going to go to gynae. What happens when you first go to gynae after that emergency surgery?
So they basically asked how I was doing and how
Okay.
I was coping with the condition. And that's when I said, I'm feeling okay, but I am very concerned about my bowel endometriosis
Okay.
because that's never been worked on, that's never been looked at because I've never had the colorectal surgeon in my surgery, in the emergency surgery.
Wow.
So I said, I'm really concerned about that. And at first they were really good. They sent me for like colonoscopies, they sent me for MRIs, but that's when the whole dilemma starts after getting those results then from theirs.
Okay.
But at the beginning, I'd say the NHS were quite supportive. They really were. But there's been a few instances, like many others that have probably experienced, you get those appointments where you leave crying and it's not exactly what you expect. There was one time I had an appointment, I think I was only about 23 at the time. Obviously, they knew that I had ovarian cysts from the emergency surgery.
Yeah.
And it was a female gynaecologist. And I remember going in and saying, well, what are my options? And she just looked at me and said, you either get pregnant or you have both of your ovaries removed. And I was like, I'm 23.
23.
And there's one extreme to the other. I have my children now, or I have the ovaries removed and just never have children.
Oh my goodness.
And that was the only choice I was given. And I remember leaving that appointment flooding with tears. I had to go back to work, and my boss loved it. He was like, is everything okay? I was like, no, it's not okay. Like,
oh my God.
I felt so let down in that appointment.
And that's really early on in your journey, right?
Yeah.
To have such an extreme, limited range of options of you either basically fully commit and just start a huge life decision right now this second, or you completely have that choice removed.
Yeah, and it was extra frustrating as well, because by that point I had experienced 2 miscarriages.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So when she was saying, oh well, you need to get pregnant now, in my head I was thinking, well, can I? Because I've already lost 2. So you're telling me to go and get pregnant as if that's something really easy to do.
Yeah.
And she didn't even know if I was in a relationship or not at that point. I'd never disclosed to her, well, I'm in a relationship or not. So for her to just say, well, you've just got to go and get pregnant, or you have your ovaries removed and that's that. And I was just like, what do you expect me to do? What am I supposed to say to that?
How is that even a viable option? Like, how as a professional and a clinician can you even sit there and think, I can even say these options as if they're good enough to be called options.
Yeah, I know. And I think it hurt more as well coming from a female gynecologist. I just felt like there was no empathy from her as a woman.
Yeah.
So I did feel really let down.
And that's a lot to go through, to be 23 and to have had miscarriages already. That's a huge thing to have gone through.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've had your diagnosis, and I know obviously from looking at what you've talked about, you're very open. You took the huge decision to go down the private route to get an endometriosis surgery.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because getting the funds together, making that decision, never easy. So why did you decide, and what happened?
So I decided to go private after I had that really awful appointment with the NHS where they said, you either have children or you have your ovaries removed. So I was so upset by that. I thought, well, there's got to be something else that can be done. And that's when me and my mum then decided to look at the private route, where we discovered Dr. Griffiths in the Spire in Cardiff. Now, he came highly recommended. And we thought, you know what, let's just book in a consultation and see what he says. If he says the same thing, then at least I know where I stand. And I remember going to see him, and he was like, oh, looking at your scans and your results, this is easy. We can remove all of this endometriosis and the cysts, no problem. And I remember thinking,
oh my
really?
God.
Like, he was incredible, but he looked at the images from the emergency surgery that I had. And he said, oh, cysts can be removed. They may not be as easy as we plan, but he said, I can remove cysts from your ovaries. I don't know why you've been told that you have to get your ovaries removed, because you don't. Wow. And he said, you don't have to have a child right now. He said, I can do this surgery for you. I can take your endometriosis out and the cysts out. And I thought, well, this is the answer I've been looking for. This is what I need. So we had a quote from him, and I was in a really lucky position where my family could help out with the funds. And we just decided to go for it.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, that is like a black and white, day and night conversation between him and the NHS gynaecologist. And I'm guessing shocked is putting it lightly.
Yeah, I was so shocked, because I was like, how can you go from one extreme where someone on the NHS is telling me, well, you've got just these two options and that's that. And then going to someone who works for the NHS but does private care, and he was like, well, no, this is something that I can do. I can take it out and we can leave everything intact and you don't have to make these big life choices now.
Yeah.
How can you have those two extremes?
Yeah.
It really did surprise me. But then that's where the importance of looking for an endometriosis specialist comes in.
Absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Because he was an endometriosis specialist, whereas the doctor I saw, who gave me just the two options, was just a gynaecologist. And I wouldn't say that she was very clued up on the endometriosis either. So that's why it's so important to look for the right doctor to help you.
Yeah,
It really
absolutely.
is.
And it's a massive problem in the UK overall. I know it's a massive problem in England. We haven't got enough BSG centres. We haven't got enough specialists. But it's an even bigger problem in Wales, right?
Yeah.
It's an even smaller number of specialists. And I've heard of, is it Anthony Griffiths?
Yes.
I've heard incredible things about him, seen him on panels, and he literally is almost like spearheading endometriosis for Wales.
Literally, I think every woman in Wales knows Dr. Anthony Griffiths as the endometriosis god.
Yeah.
He is fantastic. He is an absolute angel. Like, I cannot recommend him enough.
Amazing. So how did that surgery go?
Went really well.
Good.
Really, really well. I came out of the surgery and he was like, we took the cysts away. He said one was the size of an orange, one was the size of an apple. He said, but they're both gone.
Oh my God.
He said he removed all the endometriosis off my womb, my fallopian tubes. He removed it off my bladder. But he did say, obviously, the only part I couldn't touch was the bowel.
Okay.
And he said he didn't feel confident doing it because he needed a colorectal surgeon, which obviously we didn't plan for.
Yes.
But apart from that, he got rid of everything that he could and it went really well.
Wow.
I literally burst into tears when he told me that because I thought nothing could be done. And he'd basically changed my life from that surgery.
That's what I was going to say. It's life-changing, isn't it?
Yeah, it really was. Really was.
Wow. Okay, so that's a huge positive. That's like a shining light moment for you in your journey. And I talked about at the start about how I wanted to talk about all the stuff going on now. So obviously things have changed, haven't they?
Yes.
We're in a very different position now.
Yeah.
How many years ago-ish was that surgery with Anthony?
So that was the end of 2021. So coming up to 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So in that 5-year span, a lot has happened. Obviously, we had COVID.
Yes,
which
we did.
has just created a nightmare for anything to do with the NHS.
Did, yeah.
And for you, that was quite a pivotal time as well. Am I right in thinking?
Yeah. So basically, I had the surgery in 2021. And obviously, I knew that he didn't touch my bowel endometriosis. And I think it was in 2022. That was the year I had my coil fitted.
Right.
Basically, a couple of months after my surgery, although it was life-changing, I was still experiencing quite painful periods. And I think that was mainly down to the fact that he hadn't taken it off my bowels.
Okay.
And by leaving that there, unfortunately, it did cause the endometriosis to spread, which was inevitable.
Okay.
I think we just didn't expect it to be so quickly. So he did recommend for me to try the coil, which I did.
The Mirena coil?
The Mirena coil, yes.
And you've had a great experience on that, right?
I love it. Love it. I honestly, it's really been the only thing that has helped my endometriosis. And it is something I will probably continue to use for as long as I possibly can.
Okay.
But obviously I knew that it was still on my bowels. And the main thing for me was, well, I need surgery now to get that removed.
Yeah.
So it was in So I think it was in around the end of 2022, beginning of 2023. That's when I got called back in then by the NHS to have a checkup appointment. Now, when I went in for this checkup appointment, they had no record of my private surgery. They didn't realise that I'd had it done.
Wow.
Because they actually called me before the appointment and said, we've got you on the waiting list for surgery. Are you ready for it? And I remember saying, well, I had surgery a couple of months ago.
Yeah.
They had no recollection of it.
Wow. So there was no like transfer of information. Nothing had been kind of passed along.
No.
Okay. That's a big knowledge gap then for them.
Oh gosh, yeah, massive. So when I went into obviously the NHS appointment, I said, well, I've had the surgery. This is what happened. But they were unable to take it off my bowels. And that's something now I'd like to look into. And that's when they sent me then for the colonoscopy, the MRI, and try and get things moving. I say try because they're not.
No, try is the key word, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there'll be a lot of women listening and watching this that have unfortunately had to have colonoscopies, and there's a lot of not very nice stories about them. How was it for you?
They're not nice.
No.
They're not nice. I did manage somehow to have it without sedation or gas and air, mainly because I don't like taking gas and air and sedation. I'd rather stay away from that if I could.
Okay.
But it wasn't very nice
No.
at all. And it was actually like during the colonoscopy, because I know friends and family who've had to have them as well. During mine, they seemed to like move me around a lot during it. And I remember saying to my mum, like, they had me in all shapes during my colonoscopy. And she was like, well, that's not normal.
No.
It's really not normal. And they were asking me to like flip on my side, flip on my front, move this way, move that way. And I remember thinking, why are they struggling so much to get through my bowels? Like, it should be pretty straightforward. But obviously then later on, I discovered following an MRI is because my bowels are all stuck in the wrong place.
Right. So they couldn't see what they needed to.
Yeah. But luckily, the colonoscopy come back all clear. There was nothing of concern from that, which was really good news.
Yeah. It can be a very like invasive scan or examination to have, can't it?
Yeah.
So it's understandably something that people get very nervous about and kind of can be a bit worried about having that.
Yeah. The scan itself, you know, you lose all your dignity. That just leaves. But it's the preparation for it as well.
I have to take like a horrible medicine.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, the preparation was, I can honestly say, is far worse than the scan itself.
Wow.
Oh, you just think you're not going to stop. But you do.
My God.
You do. I can promise you do. But that's exhausting, the prep.
Yeah.
It really is.
My uneducated guess is that it might be the same stuff that I've had to take before I've had bowel surgery.
Probably, yeah.
You have to empty everything and leave the bowel completely empty. Yeah, okay. If it is the same stuff, it's awful, isn't it?
It's really bad.
Really
bad.
Just the whole day, like it tastes horrible.
Yeah.
The process is horrible. Leaves you really sore. Like I was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I couldn't like sit down or lie down because just the whole thing was really unpleasant.
Yeah. And I just found I didn't have time to sit down or lie down. No. I was just constantly back and forth.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really exhausting. And I remember people telling me, you're going to be worn out from that. And I'm like, really? Like, I'm only going back and forth the toilet. But no, you are exhausted from it.
Takes it out of you, doesn't it?
It really does. Really does. But I honestly found that a bit worse than the scan. I really did.
We're taking a quick break to say thank you to today's sponsor, BU Period. When it comes to women's health, I'm obsessed with all things holistic and natural. My go-to product is BU's pain relief patches. The combination of menthol and eucalyptus is pure bliss when an endo flare hits. Whether it's pelvic pain, back pain, leg pain, or anything else, they give me the instant and long-lasting relief I need. And you can even set up your own subscription so that you never run out of natural pain relief. If you want to get your hands on BU's patches, you can find the link in the show notes. And make sure you use the code INJAP10 to get your exclusive listener discount. Now let's get back to the girl chat. So obviously you're pushing for bowel surgery.
Yeah.
And this is where it seems to get very, very complicated. I'm guessing a little bit also because we're talking about Wales and it seems to be harder in the kind of in that part of the nation. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah. So basically, following the colonoscopy, I had an MRI, which showed that all my endometriosis has come back.
Okay.
It showed 2 new ovarian cysts. It showed a blocked fallopian tube. But the main thing it showed that caused me concern was that my sigmoid colon, which is basically the last part of the bowel, is currently stuck between 2 of my ovaries. So they're kissing ovaries, so they're stuck together.
Oh my god.
And my colon is in the middle of that. And then they're all stuck to the back of my womb.
Wow.
I know.
Okay.
So that come back. And that's when I said, well, I need the bowel surgery. I need the endometriosis surgery to remove everything in one go.
Yeah.
Now they've said, well, because of the surgery you need the 3 surgeons in there. You need a gynaecologist, an endo specialist, and colorectal.
Yeah.
So they said, we'll be honest with you, you were under the wrong health board for this surgery. So the health board I'm currently under, they don't have an endometriosis specialist. So he said, we need to move you to a different health board. So I was like, okay. So they said, we'll refer you to a different health board.
Okay.
And in the meantime, what we can offer you is a surgery to drain your cysts. Because they're of a certain size, we can offer a surgery to drain those down as a temporary measure until you get the big surgery.
And you've been waiting for that, haven't you?
I've been waiting a while. So I was told at that time it was a year's wait for urgent surgery, which is what it was put down as.
Okay.
A year came and went, and I chased it, and they said, no, it could be up to 2 years now. And
urgent surgery?
For urgent surgery. And I remember saying, well, I've been waiting a long time. Like, I'm starting to get these symptoms back now. I need things to be happening. And I remember the woman on the phone saying, well, you haven't got cancer, so you'll just have to wait. And I remember thinking, well, you're right, but that doesn't diminish like what I'm experiencing right now.
No, and is that really the standard that we're working to?
I know. I think that's awful. An awful thing to say. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm glad it's not cancer, but
of course,
we all know that endometriosis behaves in a very similar way to cancer.
Yeah.
So I just left that call and I was like, right, it is what it is. I'm going to have to wait.
Oh my God.
And then the 2 years are coming up. And that's when I decided to chase again. And that's when I recently received the news that the health board that I need to be under has rejected me due to funding. And I don't quite know the ins and outs of this as of yet, but basically the letter also stated that the health board that I need to be under, they have asked me to have laparoscopy on the health board I'm currently under first.
Why?
Because they basically want images from that surgery and a full report as to the current state as to what's going on before they'll have a look and decide whether I'm needed in that health board. Now, we already know from my MRI that my bowel is involved, but they want my surgeon to go in and physically look at the damage, send the images, and then say, right, now can you take her?
That's crazy.
I know.
That's ridiculous, because one of the biggest reasons why so many women are denied any kind of surgery, diagnostic or removal, in the guidelines across the UK is because we say, well, surgery is really invasive and we should have a non-invasive diagnostic tool, and I'm all for working towards that, but we don't have it right now. But for so many reasons, they like to kind of play out the reason of, well, it's too invasive, we don't want to cut you open and do that.
Yeah.
And now they're saying to you, despite the fact that you've already had a surgery, you already had 2 surgeries, which have one diagnosed and then removed a lot of endometriosis by an endo specialist, one of the best in Wales, and you've got an MRI showing extensive endo all over different organs, they still want to put you under another surgery just for the sake of taking photos.
Yeah.
That seems absolutely ridiculous.
It's so crazy, because it's my current surgeon has said himself, we do not have the surgeons that you need for your big surgery. And I remember asking, well, if I was to go privately for this type of surgery where I need the 3 surgeons, what are we looking at in terms of cost? And he said, oh, it'd be no less than £15,000 because you were paying for the 3 surgeons in one surgery. And I remember thinking, well, surely I've got to be accepted then into this other health board. But no, because of funding, they want me checked basically first, which is annoying because, like you said, I've had the MRI that shows my bowel is involved. And in my last surgery in 2021, the surgeon said, I haven't removed things from your bowel. So he's also seen it.
Yeah.
Now, that was almost 5 years ago, so I can only imagine how much has changed from then. But it's still not enough. They want more up-to-date images to say, yeah, looking at the state of you, you are bad enough to be put under our care for us to sort you out.
That speaks volumes about the state of the funding for that health board, whichever one it is. Is it geographical, these health boards?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So the one I'm under is not that far from me. So whereas I'm from like the Rhondda Valleys in Wales,
Okay.
we've got a health board up there, and then the main one I need is in Cardiff.
Right. Okay.
So they're not miles away, but obviously the Cardiff health board is a bigger health board.
With supposedly a bigger pot of money and more funding and more resources. But it sounds like things are being kept incredibly tight and the purse strings are very, very tight by the sounds of it.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And I think there's a lot of us trying to get on that health board, you know. I remember my gynaecologist saying in the appointment in 2024, there is a group of women just sat waiting. he said those words, you know, we're all just sat waiting for this funding to come through for us. So I know I'm not the only one, which breaks my heart even more. But it still doesn't help that we're all just sat not knowing what's going on, not knowing how long we could be waiting. It's heartbreaking.
And like you say, the longer that you have to wait and the more that you're sat in this limbo of no one being able to do anything, you've already seen what your endometriosis has done from having a very skilled excision surgery, obviously with some being left, and the extent of which it's grown and how things have changed for you. So, I mean, how does that affect you to be sitting at the moment with all of that weighing on you?
It's really hard. From a mental aspect, it's really hard. And you're never offered any, you know, help for your mental health throughout all of this. You're not offered anything like that. So you've just got to deal with all of that on your own. And it's like, well, I could be sat in my living room one night and it could just hit me that like I've got all of this stuff going on, and it feels like the people who can help me don't want to help me.
Yes.
And it's just so frustrating. So frustrating. It really, really is.
And the level of fighting that you're having to do as well, I think that really strikes me, talking about all these different health boards and you have to make your argument and appeal and all the rest of it. There's so much fighting involved just to get taken care of by the NHS, which is supposedly a system that everyone should be able to access and be there for them, right?
Yeah. From my own personal opinion, I just feel like the NHS really is on the verge of crumbling, which I know sounds awful to say, but it's not just gynaecology that's suffering, but I feel like we are the department that is put to the back.
Yes.
And we all know that during COVID, gynaecology was the first department to be put on the backlog.
Was it?
It was, yeah.
I did not know that.
Yeah, it was one of the first departments to be dropped from urgent care.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is why there's such a big backlog of women waiting. You know, the waiting lists during COVID, they went from, say, a year or two to 8 to 10 years.
The effects are catastrophic, aren't they? I mean, I think it might have been updated again, but I think the estimated updated wait list now is something like 760,000 women.
It's insane.
Just for a gynecology appointment.
Yeah.
So it doesn't take into account how long it takes to get a diagnostic laparoscopy, and then from that point convince the gynae to even give you an endo referral to a specialist or a BSGE clinic, because that's a whole fight in itself. The amount of women that are told, well, you only have stage 1 or you only have stage 2, so you don't need an endo specialist, which is, you know, massively problematic.
Yeah,
like we know.
Definitely. And, you know, we all know in the endometriosis community, there's at least 1 in 10 women who have been diagnosed with endo. But because of the huge waiting list, they actually think that that's 1 in 7. But because people are waiting so long for diagnosis, they can't update those figures. So it could be even more prominent than we think.
Yeah.
But because people are just waiting years and years and years, it's just those figures will never change.
And how many women are dropping out during that wait time, right? How many women understandably are thinking, I cannot do this anymore.
Yeah.
Like I've not got the energy, I've not got the motivation, I'm too tired, I don't want to put myself through this anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. God, 1 in 7.
There's so many of us women that are dealing with not only just endometriosis, but adenomyosis. Why is there not mental health support for conditions like that? We're all put on a long waiting list for, you know, physical help. But why are we not given mental health support for that?
The ripple effects are massive, right? And the amount of women that, unfortunately, it often comes into that gaslighting kind of dismissive world of they're told, oh, you're just depressed or you're just anxious or you're just stressed or whatever it might be. And actually, you're right. Probably a huge amount of women may be suffering with depression or high levels of anxiety and stress. But is it any wonder? Because the condition itself is enough to make anyone stressed.
Yeah.
And then the system that you have to navigate to supposedly get some help with that condition.
Yeah. I know myself, I rely on, you know, my partner and my close family for support. And they're always there for me no matter what. But you do feel a level of guilt where you're like, oh, I'm constantly putting this on them. You know, it's not nice for them to see me dealing with this. They've got their own stuff that they've got to deal with. And it's all well and good saying, yeah, I've got a close circle for support, but they're not trained, you know, in mental health. And it's probably even harder coming from like a family aspect. But we need someone who is a professional to say, here's how you can cope with this in the meantime.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a huge effect on relationships, right? So obviously you've
Massive.
got an incredible partner, very supportive partner and family, like you say. How has that impacted you guys as a unit going through all of this over the past few years?
He's been my rock. He really has. I'm really, really lucky to have him. But obviously, we go through our own hurdles because, endometriosis can affect things like intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
At the moment, my endometriosis is so bad that intimacy has become painful and
Okay.
uncomfortable. And, I find that I'm trying to stay away from that
Mm-hmm.
because I know it's going to hurt. So, me and my partner are going through sort of like the hurdles of dealing with that at the moment. But
Yeah.
luckily, he is really supportive and he knows, like, if something hurts or, if something's not comfortable, there's ways around it. We can just go on a date instead. We
Yes.
can cuddle instead, but
Yeah.
it's not easy on relationships at all. It's really not.
Painful intercourse is one of the symptoms that was like one of the number one symptoms for me that has always, always been there. And you're right, it just affects how you feel about yourself, like your own self-esteem, how you relate to that other person in terms of like, am I being like a good partner or the kind of partner I want to? Am I meeting their needs?
Yeah.
How does this change romance?
Yeah.
How do we keep it a romantic relationship and
Yeah.
it not become like a friendship or like a carer and a patient type relationship? It's so much to navigate. And like I said, there's no guidebook. There's
No.
no one there that can be like, okay, we can help you guys like walk through this together.
Yeah.
You just have to navigate it.
Yeah, and it's so hard. And like you said, in regards to how you feel as well, like half the time I really don't feel sexy. And doing an intimacy, you want to feel sexy, but I'm either like really, really bloated or I'm just not in the mood, like I've got low libido. But like trying to explain that to my partner, and then he's coming back, he's like, oh, you're always sexy, like don't worry about that. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not that, it's in my head, it's something I've got to deal with. But like you said, there's no guidebook on that. You've got to figure that stuff out yourself.
Yeah, it changes how you feel about your own body, right?
Yeah, massively, it can do.
Drastically. Yeah.
Yeah.
My partner's the same. He's a sweetheart and he's lovely and he'll always be like, yeah, but you always look pretty. You always look nice. And it's like, I love you for saying that and I appreciate the support. But there are so many times when you look at your own body and either go, I don't recognize you, or I don't like you, I don't like what you look like,
Yeah.
or you're hurting me. Like, I think one of the biggest challenges I found is how can you try and love yourself and like yourself as a person where there is a part of your own body that actually, me personally, sometimes I really hate it.
Yeah.
Like I really hate what endo does and what
Yeah.
it is and what it does to me. So how can you love yourself when there's a big part of you that there's so much hatred there?
Yeah, exactly. And I think, like, for example, myself, I've been on this massive like body acceptance journey and looking at my body and being like, well, I get endo belly, I've experienced weight gain and it is what it is. But I'll go through phases where I'm like, yeah, I've put on weight, I've got an endo belly, but it's okay. I'm going to chuck on a pair of underwear and I'm going to feel good. But then weeks later, I could be like, oh, I'm not as skinny as I used to be, or I don't look how I used to. And then from my partner's perspective, he's like, well, how can you go from loving yourself to hating yourself in those few weeks when you literally haven't changed? But trying to explain that, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you can't explain it because you don't know why you've changed your mindset over those few weeks. But like to your partner, it's like, oh, well, a couple of weeks ago, you thought your curves were beautiful and you love the way you look now. And now you're telling me you don't want to be intimate because you feel all bloated and you feel like sluggish and you feel really ugly. And it's like, I can't even explain that myself sometimes. It's just the way we work,
Yeah, and it's the unpredictability. If I had to define endo in one word, there's a lot of ones you could use, but unpredictable is probably one of the ones that would come to mind.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything about it is unpredictable.
Yeah.
You become unpredictable in how you feel and how you think about yourself or your life or different decisions. And the disease itself is totally unpredictable.
Yeah, and especially with intimacy, because sometimes you can do it and it can be absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And then you could do it a week later and it could be the most painful experience you've ever had.
Yeah.
Like I am sick to death of chucking out bed sheets because sometimes it looks like a murder scene. But how could it be like that one time and then a week later it's absolutely perfect?
Yes.
There's just no explaining it.
No, there isn't. And how do you prepare for that? How can you even try and have a backup plan or right, in this situation, if this happens, this is what we do?
Yeah.
Because you feel like you're second guessing yourself all the time.
And then that takes the fun out of being intimate. It's not, spur of the moment. It's not fun because you're like, it's like a military operation, right?
Yes.
If I bleed, this is what we do. You know, if this hurts, this is what we've got to do. And it's just, it's not fun anymore. Do you know what I mean?
One of the things that I think is most upsetting talking about romance and date nights and things is, and I've seen that you've done a really good video about this, about food and nutrition and the pressure that can come with, well, if you have endometriosis, you should just be perfect and never have anything that you want.
Yeah.
And especially on date nights, like my partner, he's a huge foodie and he loves his wine.
Mm.
And I know, you know, you could easily, well, not easily, but you could say, I'm never going to have any alcohol. And if people can manage that and it works for them, that's amazing. I don't want to do that. I don't have a lot, but wine for us is like an enjoyment and something that we love. And he loves his food. And obviously he loves his indulgent food. And on date nights, if I'm like, do you know what? I'm so good 90% of the time. I'm going to have my little 10%. I'm going to have something that I really want. Like I have a huge sweet tooth. And then immediately it's like I get punished.
Yeah.
For having something that just in that moment makes me happy or is just a nice thing to have. And then that feels really unfair. And then that date night is like, great, now I've got a huge belly. Now I'm in pain. Now I'm really uncomfortable. Fab.
Yeah, it's funny how you mention alcohol because I'm not a massive drinker. I drink on like, you know, social occasions or events and so on. But me and my partner, we have a camper. So we go on camping weekends, you know, we go to the bar, we have food. And I'll be like, yeah, do you know while we're away, I'll have a gin. And I have a gin because I'm not really like a massive alcohol drinker. I don't drink beers and so on.
Yeah.
I'll have a gin. And then literally like it's within 15 minutes, I'm like, oh, my stomach is killing me.
Ooh.
And it's as if it's hurting right the way down.
Yeah.
And my partner's like, how can that happen from one gin? And I'm sure he thinks I'm lying just to not drink. But I'm like, it just hurts so much. And for a good half an hour, I have to just lie down because I'm in agony and then it'll pass. And I'm like, surely this has to do with endo because alcohol, the ingredients in it, it can really like boost the inflammation in your body.
Yes.
So for me, I'm like, well, does it impact me where as soon as I drink it, everything just goes and just inflames? And then until that goes right down, then everything settles back down.
Yeah.
But it's like you said, that can ruin the whole date night then because you think, oh, I'd have a couple of drinks and then you're in agony. Yeah. And then it's like, oh, that's ruined now. Oh, I can't drink anymore because I'm just in too much pain.
Yeah. And it feels like you make one decision, one nice thing, one decision that somebody else wouldn't even think about making. Yeah, of course I'm going to have a drink. I want to go to the pub and have a drink. Why wouldn't I?
Yeah.
That decision is, for me at least, so strategic, has so much thought behind it. There's so much planning before, afterwards. How am I going to reduce inflammation if I had a glass of wine? There's so much that goes into just that one decision. There's rare moments where I do just think, do you know what, fuck it. I actually can't be bothered to like be sensible and just plan everything. I'm just going to do whatever I want. You know, Charlie's a great but bad influence at being spontaneous. So I'm like, yes, okay, let's just do it. Let's just have fun. Why not? And then as soon as I do it, the consequences of just not trying to be perfect all the time and manage all the different consequences of my health, it just feels like someone's punishing you for not being perfect.
I know. It's insane, isn't it? And it's so hard to like get that across to other people to understand that, like you said, it's, you have a glass of wine and there's so much to think about.
Yeah.
So even when you are impulsive or you're like, yeah, do you know what? I'm just going to do what I want. You will still have those thoughts in your mind where I'm like, but what does that mean for me? What's going to happen? But explaining that to other people and being like, yeah, I'll have a gin, but you know, they could cause this, it could cause that. And they're like, you've got to think about all of that just to have a gin. It's really, really frustrating. Yeah. Really frustrating. But it's the norm for us. It's definitely the norm for me. I don't know about you.
100% it is. Yeah. My whole life has changed because if I want to live as pain-free or symptom minimal as I possibly can, I can't just do what I want. And that's one of the biggest compromises I think I've ever had to make. I can't just live how I want to live.
It's really sad, isn't it?
It is.
It's really sad.
And talking of living how you want to, you've made some really big life decisions recently.
Yeah.
And I respect all of them. And I love the fact that you talked about them because I think you've given validation and kind of freedom to a lot of women. Would you walk me through those decisions?
Yes. So the biggest one is being that I'm not going to be a mother.
Okay.
That's the biggest one that I've made. But then there's other ones such as I'm no longer chasing having a career. For example, I don't want a career. I don't want to work towards having a career. Another one being that I'm hopefully one day going to have a hysterectomy. This is something that I would like to have and, would want to pursue. And then I think, again, one of the biggest decisions that I've made is to become quite a selfish person. And that can be looked on as such a bad thing. But like, I think when you're chronically ill and you've got conditions like endometriosis, you have to be selfish sometimes. But the main decision that has obviously been life-changing for me is that I'm not going to be a mother.
Has that been kind of decided over years and years? Have you been thinking about that? Has that been something more recently that's been on your mind? How did you kind of come to being like ready to almost make that decision?
So I think I fully made that decision after I experienced the third loss.
Okay.
So I experienced the first two and I was like, right, me and my partner now, we're going to try again because I've had endometriosis surgery now. We're going to try again. And unfortunately, I lost again. And I remember thinking, I cannot go through this again. Emotionally, mentally, physically even. I was like, I would rather just sit here and say, I'm not trying again and I'm not having children than try and get pregnant and then go through that again. Like for me, I was just like, that's made my mind up now because I've never luckily been in a situation where I've been trying to get pregnant. They've all just happened by chance. But obviously they've all ended up in losses.
Yeah.
So for me, I was like, I'm quite lucky in a sense that I've never had to go through, we got to try again and try again and try again. But obviously I've never been lucky enough to carry either full term. So I was like, it's just, for me, for my mental health mainly, it's just easier to just say, no, it's not going to happen.
And that's a lot for you to go through, right? Regardless of the intention or not, or the circumstances before getting pregnant.
Yeah.
3 times once is enough for anyone to have a really life-changing experience, but 3 is a lot.
Yeah, like it is a lot, and they did hurt because I've got a very close friendship group that we've been in since primary school, some of us, and high school.
Yeah.
And at the time of my losses, they were having children.
Oh.
And I absolutely loved it. I loved seeing them having children. But then at the same time, you will always have that thought in your head where you're sitting there and you're like, I'm feeling a bit envious. I'm feeling a bit jealous, which sounds awful to say.
It's so human though, right? It's so natural.
It's really, really hard. And I remember the second miscarriage I had, I think it was like a week later, I was going to my friend's gender reveal.
Oh no.
And I was just sat there like, I'm so happy for them, but it's so hard at the same time.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things, obviously, you don't prepare for.
No.
But it was really hard deciding that when I'm literally surrounded by my friends and thinking to myself, I'm not going to have a little one that's going to grow up with their little ones. Yeah.
It's a huge decision.
Yeah.
Very brave decision. Very brave to actually take that part of your life and look at it and have very honest conversations with yourself and your partner, because understandably a lot of people might think, you know what, I can't look at that part of my life. I can't deal with that right now. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah. Would it be one of those things that once I decided it was going to happen, I knew I had to let everyone else around me know. So me and my partner had the discussion because my partner's already got a little one. He's got a little boy.
Okay.
And he is always asking, when am I having a sibling? So me and my partner have had that discussion where I was like, do you want more kids? And I'm very lucky that he was like, if it happens, it happens. But if it doesn't, it doesn't.
Okay.
But I remember once I decided, I rang my mum and I rang my dad and I was like, right, I'm coming over tonight. I want to have a word. I remember sitting them down and saying, look, I have decided I do not want children. And if I can, I'd like to have a hysterectomy. And they were like, yep, your choice, your decision. We totally respect what you want to do. My father's a bit political, so we went off on a bit of a tangent. But for my mum's side especially, I'm ending the family tree. Okay. So I felt a bit of guilt with that. But my mum's so supportive. She was like, do you know what? It's your life, it's your choice. You do what you want. Yeah. So I'm really lucky in that sense that they've both been so understanding.
That's amazing. I'm so glad that you've got that support, and that is exactly the response that you would want to have of, we're not in your body, we're not living your life, we see what you've gone through, and we respect any decision that you make. And that's, again, such a brave thing to do, because of course it is your body, it's your life, it's you first and foremost, but there are so many layers of people that go beyond that, right? That you either need to tell or talk to or share these things with or might question it,
Yeah.
you know?
Because I felt like a bit guilty because I was like, well, my mum now is never going to be a grandmother because I'm her only child. So I was like, oh, I'm taking that away from my mum as well. But luckily she adores my dog and my dog is her grandbaby. But I felt an immense amount of guilt with that. We went up her attic and we were going through family stuff and she's like, I'm going to have to leave all of this to you, to leave to your children. And I was like, oh, well, who am I going to leave it to? I haven't got kids and I'm not going to. And she was like, oh, yeah, true. So I was like, oh, well, I'll have everything and I'll just sort it all out at the end of the family tree. But yeah, it comes with a lot of guilt. But like I said, I've got a really supportive family, so I'm really lucky.
But it takes effort and time and headspace to carry that guilt, right?
Yeah.
It weighs heavy. It's a very different circumstances, but I've had a lot of grief in my life, and the guilt that comes with grief weighs really, really heavy. And although logically you can explain it and kind of say why that isn't true, emotionally, grief kind of guilt is huge, right? And it weighs heavy on you.
Yeah, and it shows up really unexpectedly. One day you can feel fine, or you could feel fine for months. Like, I feel very confident in my choice to not have children. But then when I have my friends say, oh, I'm expecting, there'll always be that part in my head that I'm like, I'm grieving that now. Or for example, I think it's going to be next month will be the anniversary of my last miscarriage.
Wow.
So in my head, I'm already like, oh, that's happening next month. And I can feel that downward spiral of like, right, I'm starting to think about that again. And I'm starting to grieve that again. So it's really hard when it pops up unexpectedly, because then you also you seem like you don't know how to deal with that.
Yeah.
Because it does crop up.
Yeah. And none of these areas, anything to do with Endo that we've talked about and more that we haven't even covered, none of them can just be put in a box and locked away forever. Like, oh, I've dealt with that area of my life now. And I'm never going to have to think about that again, or that's never going to come up again.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to, in 10, 15, 20 years, when I'm a different version of myself, look at that or deal with that or process that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
You've been amazing. Thank you so much for sharing everything. I do have a podcast tradition for you.
Okay.
There is a question that I ask everyone that I'd love to get your response to.
Okay.
So I'd like you to imagine that I'm not sat here, I'm not in this chair, but the person that is sat in this chair is a younger version of Amy.
Oh gosh. Okay.
So whether she's in her teenagers, her 20s, closer to the age that you are now, you can choose.
Okay.
If you could say anything to her, if you could talk to her, what would you say?
I would say to trust your thoughts, trust your feelings, and just be proud of who you are. Because I think not knowing what endometriosis was and going through all of that pain, looking back, I'm like, wow, like she was strong because she dealt with all of that and she just thought it was normal. And she was like, do you know what? I'm just unlucky and it's the way it is and I got to suck it up. And now, like looking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, like to deal with all of that and not know makes me very proud of me when I was younger. It makes me really proud. So I just say keep being strong, keep advocating for yourself and advocate for others when you can, but just trust your feelings and just trust that you're on the right path with whatever you decide.
No, amazing. And I think hopefully it's okay to, I think you should be very proud to look at where you are now and everything that you're continuing to navigate to this day. And like you say, the way that you've held yourself and handled everything that you have so far, you've been amazing. Thank you so much. It's so lovely to hear that level of honesty and just rawness of your story and to share it with everyone.
Yeah, thank you. And I hope others can do the same. I really do. Like, I know it can be scary, especially in like the social media world or even just in the real world. You know, you're making these decisions that people may not always agree with, but just trust your feelings. This is your life. Be honest, be raw, because that matters more than anything.
Yeah.
You know? So,
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I loved our girl chat this week. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, then don't forget to hit the follow button wherever you're listening. To find out more about us or today's guest, then head to the show notes. Until next time, I'm Alexandra, and remember, it's not just a period.